Welcome. This is Hugh Massey, the CEO and founder of DNA Behavior. I'm delighted to talk to you today about our business DNA discovery process and the work talents report. My objective today is to give you a bit of a walkthrough on how to interpret and facilitate the work talents report when one of your team or a client of yours has completed the business DNA discovery and received this report. The work talents report is intended to be a short, snappy report to provide an immediate feedback in very simple terms of how a person ticks. So it's the high-level overview. We have additional reports that follow, starting with a workplace operations report that provide more detailed insights. But the reason for us having this report is to be able to convey the key messages about how a person is wired very quickly and easily in user-friendly terms, such as for Helen Jones here. And just to recap, the business DNA natural behavior discovery process is all about uncovering a person's natural hardwired talents. It's not all of their personality or behavior. It's meant to be those natural instinctive behaviors that particularly reveal themselves when a person is under pressure and will consistently show up in the workplace and generally in life over long periods of time. This is in essence a very reliable prediction of how a person ticks. So I'm going to walk you through the report for Helen Jones. So the first thing here is to note is that Helen Jones's unique style is an engager. There are 10 unique styles, and you can see each of the 10 unique styles here in the graphic. So Helen is the engager there. Her style would be close to being an influencer or a community builder. So generally speaking, you would expect most engagers to be reasonably relational and quite fast-paced, mainly because they are instinctive. If you want to learn more about the engager, but also the other styles, have a look at the unlocking guide that we have that will provide more insights about each style. Also, the participant will get an online experience when they complete the profile along with this report that provides more insights, including a video. So the unique style is made up of the individual's complete scoring. So we measure 8 factors and 24 sub-factors in the system, in the DNA system. The blend of all of that is the unique style, and for Helen, that's the engager. But no two engagers are the same because there are so many combinations of behavior. When you take it that there are 8 factor scores measured with T scores starting at 20 and going up to 80, and then there are the 24 sub-factors. We do believe it's important to distinguish each person starting with their top 2 factor scores. So for Helen, she is outgoing, which is pretty much symptomatic with an engager. Engagers are outgoing people. They are very friendly, enthusiastic, easy to connect with. They like talking to people. They usually enjoy new opportunities. They like being out there in life. And that's what this describes, but also here as well. They're your classic networker. For Helen as well, she is creative. So she likes exploring possibilities, innovative and driven by ideas. And just to reiterate the point, not all engagers are creative. You'll generally find many of them to be quite outgoing, but some could be the opposite of creative, which is anchored. And this is where a person's uniqueness starts to get expressed and seen in these reports. What's important when you're working with anybody is to know how to relate to them, how to communicate with them on their terms, not how you wish to be communicated with, but how they want to be communicated with or need to be communicated with. So in relating to Helen, it's important to understand these 5 bullet points here. Remembering her need for fun and excitement. Invest in the relationship, tell her who is involved. That's very important for anybody that is an engager and a very outgoing person. And then because of her being creative, have a look at these next 2 here. Expect, encourage her out of the box thinking, and encourage brainstorming. So these 5 communication keys here come from the top 2 factor scores here. So the first 3 relate to the outgoing, and then the next 2 relate to the creative. So this will be true in any of these profiles that reports that you look at. So each work talents report will show for each person their top 2 factor scores, the strongest 2 factor scores, and then related to that, the 5 communication keys, 3 being from the strongest score. So Helen's strongest score is outgoing, and then 2 from the second strongest score, which is creative. And then we move down to have a look at the actual work talents. And what we've done is distilled all of the factor scores and sub-factor scores together and look at 5 major items that are relevant to workplace performance. So the first one being results versus relationships. Each person will generally be one or the other. And again, I'd emphasize that this doesn't mean that because you're high in results, that means that you're better than a relationships person. Both in the end are needed in the workplace, but for Helen, she is results orientated and she's got a score of 88. So she is 88% more results driven than everybody else in the universe. So the other way of putting it is there would only be 12% of the universe that would be more results driven than Helen. So she's very strong on that in that area. So any score over 70 in these 5 dials is a relatively strong, hardwired score. So actually, Helen is far more results orientated than she is relationship driven. Now, when you look at the pie chart here, many engagers are often relationship driven. This just happens to come from the overall mix of Helen's traits. So while she likes people, she's more about connecting to people, but not necessarily building a deep relationship. That's what this shows. But there will be other engagers that might come out higher on the relationship side. That would be the general. Then the next one is she is daring. So she's got some spirit of adventure, reasonably high risk taker, but not extreme. But the flip side is that she probably won't be that careful in her decision making. She won't be that cautious about the choices. She can handle taking some risks. The third one where Helen is extremely strong is she's abstract. That comes with the creative factor. So she is very innovative with new ideas, conceptualizing, will seek to design new solutions rather than the more concrete person that prefers to work with solutions that they already know about. They're more anchored to follow the steps. So the concrete person is more what I would call more execution focused. The abstract person is more conceptual focused, dealing with new ideas, packaging up solutions. So Helen is very strong there. That would be her strongest talent. The fourth one, sorry, here is that Helen is extremely flexible. So she's quite spontaneous in the way she works and operates and deals with information. She's probably not going to be naturally that well organized or well prepared. It will be more instinctive operations for her, as opposed to the more systematic person that's more planned, structured, very well organized, can even be a bit more rigid. So we can see here that at a score of 90, Helen is extremely flexible. And then the bottom one here is about whether the person will promote ideas, sell things, or is more operations focused. So Helen's going to be more what we will call promoting. So engaging with people, connecting, wanting to communicate ideas, rather than being more task focused, which an operations person would be. Now, in facilitating the report, now that you've got this information, the way we would encourage you to go about it is to ask questions. So we always believe that the best way to facilitate a report is to ask questions. So the first question could be for Helen is, what did you think of the business DNA discovery process? Were the results accurate for you? Ask open-ended questions. What did you feel it was telling you about your strengths and how you work? Again, the point being to get her to talk. And luckily, when you're facilitating an engager, they will like to talk. Now, if you're facilitating a strategist or a reflective thinker who are not outgoing by nature, it could be a bit harder in the facilitation process because they're not necessarily going to be as free-flowing in the conversation. So you need to know that going in as well. So the point being is ask some general warm-up questions to get them talking about the report. And then you could ask some questions about each of the 5 areas there. So you could ask Helen, tell me how you approach getting results in your work. How do you hold others accountable? They would be results type questions. What's your approach to building relationships and networking with people? Do you have long-lasting relationships, or are people there for you to connect with to get information or to get to the next place? What do relationships mean to you? They're the types of questions you could ask here on both sides of the equation. What we're trying to do is encourage you to ask questions around the person's strength first, and the struggles will naturally come out. Then you could ask questions about daring for Helen. Tell me about some risks that you've taken. How did you handle those? Was it successful? Did you feel comfortable taking those risks? In what areas did you take risks? Then in the abstract, ask Helen to tell you about an idea that she's generated recently. Did she pursue it? How did it get executed? Did in fact the idea work at all? Did she collaborate with somebody who was more concrete to work out the execution plan? With the concrete people, they ask them about how they follow procedures, what they do with a new idea when it comes in. Often what you'll find is concrete people get overwhelmed with new ideas. And then here with systematic and flexible. So Helen is more flexible. How do you manage your schedules? How do you stay on task? Do you follow your instincts or do you do research? They're the types of questions that you can ask. You can turn those into positive questions. Then the promoting versus operating. Tell me how you go about promoting a new idea. How do you influence other people to adopt your thinking, to buy what you've got to offer? How do you feel when you have to do tasks all day? Do you work from checklists? So these are the types of questions you can ask. You get the idea of what I'm doing here in facilitating the report. And so we've distilled down in this one-page report, as I said, 5 key talents for you to work with. But you can already see it can become a very rich conversation quickly. And that's the idea of the work talents report. And then when you want more information about the person to go deeper with them, in whether it's coaching, to solve a problem, get them to learn about themselves, then go and access the workplace operations report.